amanya n'eddoboozi nze Ntongo Front.
Christine Sendi.
Mwanje Steven Kabarana.
Serunya Anes Kaddu.
Eno program bagiyita Film Agenda 256.
Enganze nnyo.
Sawa 2 buli Lwakusatu.
Wano teri kuvaawo, beera wano.
Nange kwe.
All right, thank you so much for tuning in on Film Agenda 256 Wanoku National Theatre, where we are hosted, our home and our place to be. Today, we are hosting one of the leaders at National Culture Forum, the umbrella body that associates or brings all the artistic and creative associations together to create a platform where we can negotiate and also speak for the creative industries. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Musinguzi Godfrey, your host for today's show. Kati buli omu gyali eyo gamba ku munno nti Film Agenda 256 etuuse era tandika okwogera ne banno bonna we bali batandike okufollowinga. The people that have just come in, thank you so much, and we are saying thank you. Shout out to every filmmaker out there, creative, that is supporting the creative sector in any way you can. We cannot stop saying thank you to Uganda National Culture Center. We cannot also stop saying thank you to Connect for Culture, Africa, Ministry of Gender, Tourism, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, everyone that is doing something that to help the creative sector be recognized. And tonight, we want to also invite the Uganda Investment Authority to pick interest in this industry because something is cooking up. This industry is one of the biggest industries around the world, is empowering economies. As Uganda struggles with the young people that are unemployed, this industry has a solution. So we are calling upon every stakeholder in their positions, in their responsibilities to join hands and support the film sector in Uganda. I am blessed to host Mr. Charles Batambuze, who will be introducing himself on our show. And then also don't forget that every Wednesday we have a Ugandan film showing at Uganda National Theatre, wano kumpi ne Parliament. Okuyingira omutwalo gumu atenga tuwagira ebina Uganda byokka. Nesha twagala gamba, I want to say thank you for the team that is behind the cameras. You're doing a great job for the industry to get. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Film Agenda 256. It's Wednesday, 8 p.m. We are always locked on YouTube channel Living Arts Uganda. So Mr. Charles, bambi weyanjulireko eri abantu baffe bakutegeere bulungi nnyo.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to the show, and for I believe we're going to have a very exciting discussion.
Nice.
On the film industry and the creative industries generally. My name is Charles Batambuze. I am the Vice Chairman of the National Culture Forum, which, as you heard from Godfrey, is the umbrella body for all associations and federations within the culture and creative industries. We represent 71 associations from across all the 9 domains of culture and creative industries. Each of the domains is a full industry in itself. And our industry employs over 500,000 Ugandans. We are bigger than government in terms of numbers of people that work for
government employees
the sector.
Around 160,
300, about 300.
Yeah.
Yes. So we are bigger than government. We have a power of our own as an industry. Our power is not raw power. It's called soft power. We change. We influence you to do something. Not because we have a stick, but because of what you watch on TV, because of what you read, because of what you see and feel. So that is the power of this industry in changing or transforming mindsets of people, in elevating our cultures. You know, as our works, films and so on go to different countries, but also in creating employment for the young people. You talked about the young people. I think in Uganda, the population below 35 years is 78%. So that is huge. This is the only sector where people join, regardless of level of education, regardless of capital, because you need a small capital to set up and start working. The market is readily available depending on what you have chosen to do within the creative sector. So I'm really, really glad to have come here to speak to these issues.
Thank you so much. Yes, mumwewuliriddeko Mukulu Charles Batambuze is the vice chairperson at National Culture Forum, one of the bodies that is trying to do a lot to streamline and support the Uganda creative sector. Mr. Charles, to begin with, there's so many things that you have done. I would love you to also help the people online to understand many of the things that you've worked on as a culture forum, especially on policy reviews that you've submitted, also helping the film sector get to be recognized that the president is investmentable, and also getting to know that there is interest for the government to fund the creative sector. Tuyambeko tutegere, because many of the people out there bawulira National Culture Forum, but they may not know exactly that what is happening behind curtains, powered by the National Culture Forum.
Yeah, thank you for that issue. Let me begin from the point that the National Culture Forum is non-government.
Yeah.
It's for people, private sector people that work in the industry, and it is provided for in the National Culture Policy of 2006. By 2006, there was a realization that practitioners within the culture and creative industries needed to have a unified voice on the many issues that affect them. As you know, government might have experts to think for us.
Yes.
But you see, the experts most times are not experiencing the actual environment where what we are doing happens. So if you're a filmmaker, there are unique challenges that you go through. Some of them can be addressed through training. Some of them can be addressed through policy. And all other interventions that can exist to help improve the environment of work. So the Culture Forum was set up so that artists would have a unified voice on the many issues that affect them as they engage with government, but also as they engage with development partners. So that both government and other partners can have a clear understanding of the interventions that are relevant to change these industries.
Okay.
The Culture Forum has a mandate. One of the things that we do is to lobby for members. We organize joint activities with members. We build the capacity of members. We network locally and internationally, and we support government in the implementation of the National Culture Policy. Since our founding, we've done quite a lot of things. I can say that there was a time when government published 2 sets of regulations.
Yes.
One of them was stage play and public entertainment rules, 2019. The other one was film and photography regulations, rules, 2019. There was a lot of outcry from the sector. And as Culture Forum, we sat down with our members to discuss and try to understand what the issues were. And then we elevated the concerns of the members to the Minister of ICT and said, these rules are being rolled out, people were not consulted, they violate many things and so on. So the minister listened and stayed the implementation of those rules. So it was important at that stage. And UCC then was asked to conduct countrywide consultations of artists on those 2 rules. And in 2022, they carried out the consultations. But also, we should remember that in 2020, we got into the issue of COVID-19.
Yes.
And when the lockdown happened, there was a serious problem. Artists were very challenged, especially musicians, because the music industry in Uganda had been built on one revenue stream, which was public performances, the concerts and whatever.
Oh,
Now
okay.
with the lockdown, people were not earning from concerts, performances in bars and so on. And yet the other revenue streams were not earning anything for the artists. So there was a problem. And this problem ended up in Gulu. The National Culture Forum, working together with the Uganda National Culture Center, UNCC, and the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, and OWC, Operation Wealth Creation. We got to sit down with the artists, one, to understand what the challenges are, to understand why the different revenue streams were not being exploited to the advantage of artists. So that is when issues like the birth of advocacy to reform the Copyright Act, that's when such issues started. But also, how do we get the broadcasters to pay royalties so that the collecting societies can license and collect this money for the artists? And also the issues of the market, where are people selling their products? Is it that in Uganda, for instance, film can only sell on TVs and in the video libraries? What about other markets? How can we intervene? How can we devise interventions that can help expand and grow these markets so that people are able to earn and make a living off their works? So in that period also, there was a campaign to support businesses of promoters, music promoters that had lost money because of the lockdown. So a stimulus fund was actually extended by government of 10 billion Uganda shillings.
Okay.
There was extra money of 7.7 billion, which was given for e-concerts. These concerts happened on NBS, as well as regional concerts. So there were regional concerts in Moroto, in Lira, in Arua, in Bunyangabo, and several here in Kampala. For the first time, we saw that actually if we work together as a united front for artists, government could listen and release money. Many people have said that, they have other ways they could have spent that money. That is okay to think so. But the important lesson then was that actually when we speak up and reason logically, government can listen and release some money for the sector. Then there is the issue of the copyright campaign. We started work in 2020. The comedians, the Uganda Comedians Association, which is led by Hannington Bujingo, were going to see the president. So they came to us and said, we want to go and see the president, but we want you to contribute to the paper that we are going to read to the president. That was such a wonderful invitation for us. So we contributed. And our ideas for that paper, we put in 4 issues. The first one, that government needed to amend the Copyright Act because one, the way we consume content has changed. Now we have gadgets. We share content on phones, on flash disks. In fact, for flash disks, downtown, they say this flash ya mutwalo film ya bwerere oba flash ya mutwalo music wachi wa bwerere. So we thought we could have something within the law that would help artists earn from the distribution that happens and copying that happens via gadgets. And the system we're advocating for is what is called private copy levy, a levy imposed on gadgets as they come into the country, or charged at the level of the factory if the gadget is manufactured within the country, so that money is collected and it is distributed to creators as a royalty to them, and therefore incentivize the process of creativity. Also in Bujingo's paper, we talked about the issue of scattered mandates. As you know, in 1993, what used to be the Ministry of Culture and Community Development was disbanded. When it was disbanded, it created the orphans of artists, because artists belong neither here nor there. We are neither in the Ministry of Gender nor in tourism or justice or ICT and national guidance. Those 4 ministries actually have elements and components of the culture and creative industries. And at a political level, it's difficult really for to hold any of the ministers, for those ministries that I've mentioned, accountable for for planning for the sector. But also the different things that we want for a modern industry that is growing, that is absorbing so many young people. So no wonder some of the challenges that we currently face as an industry is because of the issue of scattered mandates. We have argued that, we need the Ministry of Culture revived so that artists can have a home of their own. Currently, in the Ministry of Gender, we have a unit or a department which is headed by a commissioner. But remember, it is family affairs. Culture and family. So we share with family. Then we have an assistant commissioner for culture. So we have one staff working on our issues. One staff working for 500,000 people, 500,000 people that work in our sector.
In that sector.
We have also argued that, other industries have ministries. For instance, agriculture has a minister of agriculture. Energy has a minister of energy. Industries have a minister, and so on and so forth. So if we are in an industry, culture and creative industries, how come we don't have a minister of our own? We only have one staff within the ministry that is said to be responsible for artists. And so that one staff cannot do everything that we desire that should be done
yes,
to change our industry. So that's a campaign that is ongoing. And indeed,
maybe before you continue, there's something you mentioned, us having scattered mandates, and there's also a lot that is going on. I hear a lot of amendments of different mandates. For example, the UNCC Act is being reviewed, and then there's also the policy, the culture policy. There's also which other ministry, which act?
Copyright.
Yes, the Copyright Act. So where do these guys now come in? The artists, the creatives that are in this space, are they contributing? Because when I look at people when they're reviewing the act, the UNCC Act, one, I would love to think that it should be a law. It should be a law that at least on every board we should have an artist representing these creatives in this space. What is your take on that? What is confusing is that every act being amended or reviewed is being reviewed or amended at very different level without the involvement of some senior stakeholders in the business.
Okay, what I can say is artists need to position themselves so that they can contribute to the amendments. Positioning means you should get to know what is happening,
yes,
what is happening within government and so on, so that you get yourself invited or invite yourself into these meetings, where issues are being discussed to amend or change laws. If you don't get invited, okay, sometimes you can blame the organizers, but most times blame yourself for not being visible enough so that they know there's a Batambuze that we need to be part of this meeting,
yes,
that is looking at this law. So it's important, but also for us to put effort in building visibility for our associations, because it's easier to invite an association. It's easier for whoever is spearheading something to know that there's a film association, and because the issue that we are tackling concerns film, we need to speak to them.
Speak about.
Most times, personally, when I started engaging with the entire industry, I found there was a bit of disconnect. I think out of several frustrations that people have faced over the years, some people are not supportive of associations and so on, and yet it is a sure way of us getting involved in the development of these laws and whatever. you are right about the need for representation, and that's voices in different agencies of government and in different spaces, so that our voices can be heard. And indeed, when we're, for instance, debating the issue of amending the Copyright Act, one of the proposals was that the act or the bill should create an independent board.
Yes.
Maybe called the Uganda Copyright Board. The way it is in Kenya, they have a Kenya Copyright Board. In Nigeria, they have the National Nigeria Copyright Commission, and many other countries. Because to them, they look at copyright as a huge industry that is able to even sustain those agencies that are specialized to tackle the issues of copyright and support the development of the industries. That proposal was shot down. Then they said, okay, now within URSB, they'll set up, because URSB is the one supervising copyright. So they said they'll elevate the department for copyright, the unit for copyright, to a directorate. So we would have a directorate of copyright. At the moment, copyright is part of the directorate for IP, intellectual property. So industrial rights, and then copyright. And what we have observed over the years was that URSB was putting a lot of emphasis on industrial property, as trademarks and all the other things, because they generate quite a huge amount of money. And for us, copyright, we're just getting used to the idea that, for instance, we need to register copyright, we need to register contracts, and so on, related to the exploitation of works. So the proposal then was that URSB would elevate the copyright unit to a directorate. And recently, we saw when they came to Parliament, they said they were looking for 2.3 billion so that they can set up
elevate that.
Yeah, this directorate. But also there was a concern that, the board of URSB, we don't have a single creator on that board.
Thank you.
And if you are not represented at that level, strategic
who will
level,
represent us? Who will represent our issues?
But also recently, for instance, at UCC, when we went there with a group of filmmakers to argue the case for UCC clamping down on broadcasters that air illegal films, the issue was also expressed that, we don't sit on your board and we don't trust that your board is handling our issues at that strategic level. And indeed, it is true that
it is actually, Mr. Charles, it's one of the challenges creatives are facing, that we have policy makers, we have decision makers in those boardrooms who are never even informed of what is happening on the grounds for creatives. But I love the fact that there is now that direction of discussion. So what did the director, when these URSB people went to Parliament, did they get approved for that? Did the budget get through? Or?
Actually, I haven't known what happened, but maybe when the budget framework paper, the revised one, when it's published again, we'll look at to see how far they went, whether they were successful or they were not successful. One of the key concerns, by the way, is that has been expressed in various places, is the fact that a lot of technical people working within government, Minister of Finance, even Minister of Gender and tourism, and all these spaces don't yet appreciate the arts and the creative industry, how it works, what value it contributes to the sector, to the economy, and so on, and why the correct interventions that are required to make it work for the benefit of the people that work in that industry, but also for the benefit of the country.
The country, yes.
So we have a lot of work to do in terms of promoting awareness about this sector, creating that awareness, and continuously demonstrating to the people that this is a very big, important industry. Part of our challenge, of course, is we don't have a lot of data on our industry. Industries that are understood, there is a lot of information around those. So the different guilds, for instance, for film, need to collect for us data. The different associations in the different domains need to start collecting data about their industries. We want to know, for instance, for the Producers Guild, we want to know how many movies were produced in a particular year,
2020, yeah.
how many people were involved, how much money was spent, how much money has been made. All this information is very critical for informing actions by different stakeholders. Some of the stakeholders that did this information is government. Others are people like us that are doing advocacy and engagements, but also development partners. I have asked a question, how come not many people are investing in our sector? You see, in Uganda, we have some rich people, seriously very wealthy people, but they are investing in other things.
Yes, true.
Not in the creative industry. So they are not investing in our industry probably because there is no data to show that people are making money from this industry. But the other thing, maybe we need to improve the way we organize ourselves, so that we become attractive to people that have money, that can help change the status of our industries.
Okay, thank you so much, Charles. Everyone on this show, we welcome you. Film Agenda 256. Tetwagala kubaleka mabega. Someone called Raymond Sematimba says, is development of the sector dependent on the government or the professional integrity of the creatives? That's a question. We'll add it on. Neon says, I think the sector relies on both the creators and good governance. Government's role to create environment that allows for ease in development. The sector through its policies that back us up. So I would love you to address this. Is it dependent on the government or the professional integrity of the creatives?
I personally believe that government does 30% of the job.
So the 70 is the creatives.
The 70 is the creatives. However, the 30% is so important. For instance, when you think about infrastructure around the country, and for me, I'm thinking broadly about these issues.
Very true, yes.
For instance, we have only one national theatre in Kampala that seats 377 people. What about the other places around the country? All the cinemas are private sector. All the cinemas are private sector owned. But are there incentives, for instance, encouraging private sector people to invest in cinemas? For other fields, for instance, agriculture enjoys a lot of incentives.
Yes.
And my argument is the same incentives need to be extended to our sector. We've talked about film rebates. That is something that only government can only do.
Yes.
But also education of artists. It's only of recent when they rolled out, for instance, the curriculum for lower secondary school. They have a subject there called performing arts.
Yes.
It's a great thing. I've looked at the textbooks developed for senior 1 all the way up to senior 4. It's a great thing. We need to encourage people to study performing arts at all levels for 4 years. And then we can see the transformation that will happen after they have studied. So government has a role to play in the area of skilling, but also I'm aware, still with skilling, that government through DIT, the Directorate of Industrial Training, is working with private sector players to accredit the courses, but also in some cases provide learning materials so that if you are training to be a filmmaker, at least you have access to good textbooks, good content that helps you acquire high-level skills. The thing that is left is, for instance, music schools need to import equipment, even film schools, and the taxes are so prohibitive and they discourage these people from.
And actually, to cut you short, on the issue of that, I don't know if as National Cultural Forum you've picked interest in the fashion industry, because one of the things that the fashion people are really crying about is the taxation. That URA is not interested in actually charging the type of fabric, but kilos.
Yes.
So by the time that product reaches the market, it is actually the last consumer that feels the taxation. And that alone affects also the film business in terms of costume, because we use a lot of costume, we use a lot of fabric in telling our stories. If we are to tell stories about African culture, fabrics will still come in. And it is my question to you, have you picked interest in the fashion world and getting to know what they're really experiencing as the National Culture Forum?
Yes, we have. One of our members is, I think, Pearl of Africa Fashion Association.
Okay.
And they have brought on our table a number of issues that I think are critical and that need to be addressed. One of them has to do with the IP.
Yes.
If your shirt here, if I love it, I'll just go and
design it,
get a tailor
tailor
to
and make
reproduce
it, yes.
and they compete with the designer for the shirt. So there's no respect for designs and so on within the fashion, and that's an issue that the fashion people working with us, but also with the URSB, to see how best we can protect designs.
Okay.
Then the issue of taxation cuts across tax waivers, incentives, and so on that are needed to promote the industry. Late last year, we are members of the Private Sector Foundation, Uganda, and under that umbrella, the Culture Forum was asked to contribute ideas for the tax policy for the next financial year. So we, working with several stakeholders, we wrote a paper on our shopping list for taxes, waivers,
Yes,
rebates, and so on. And we argued that once these are put in place, they will encourage the industry to even do much better, to contribute more to the economy than it is doing currently. So all these issues are important. And the question that was asked, so that 30% that government does is so crucial and critical.
So it supports the other 70%.
It supports the 70%. The 70% is the most important because we need the products. But the 30% is supporting product creation, but also it's supporting markets, access to markets, and that kind of
Thank
thing.
you so much. We appreciate your patience here online, and everyone that is tuning in. Tukwebaza olw'okuba nti weekuumidde ku Film Agenda 256 era gambako ku munno nti weetuli olunaku lwaleero twakyazizza National Culture Forum. Abatamanyi National Culture Forum esangibwa wano ku National Theatre era nga bimu ku bitongole ebigezaako okwogerera oba okulwanirira the creative space. One of the things that come in from the film sector is that we've had a lot of illegal content being broadcasted on these channels. And where is your position as National Culture Forum on this? Because I remember you're one of the guys that led the team of filmmakers to negotiate in the boardrooms of UCC. I really don't know what came out, but I know after your meeting, there was a public notice that was released concerning warning the TVs from broadcasting illegal content. What is your take on that? Because sometimes it is not done until it is done.
As a culture forum, we are with the creatives of Uganda on the issue of broadcasters that give airplay to illegal content. Because then that illegal content takes up space that would have been occupied by content that is legal and probably from Uganda. We, as you know, we have been part of the engagement to see how best government can support the industry to address this issue. And we made a presentation when we went to UCC. Incidentally, the Uganda Communications Commission controls about 80% of the market for culture and creative products. True. When you think about the telecoms, the ISPs, the broadcasters, these days the online channels,
Everything, communication. Now the Public Entertainment Act is also there.
Yeah. So if the UCC is failing and allowing, for instance, copyright infringing content on those platforms, then it hurts the local art industry adversely. We lose money, and we lose investment opportunities. We lose so many things. So we've been part and parcel of that campaign. I know that after our meeting, UCC issued that public notice. I've also known that after our meeting with UCC, they called some TVs and actually issued fines. Because the UCC Act allows them to do that, fines for airing illegal content. I just would like to encourage the creatives that are interested in this issue to really continue filing complaints about this issue, because government responds to pressure. Yes.
So Mukulu Batambuze, on that very issue, do you think okubeera mu UCC kyekituufu? Because bwe tuba twafiirwa ministry yaffe tulwaleero nga tuli mu UCC, everything actually nga bwogambye, it controls 80% of the creative economy mu Uganda. UCC bwefulumya ekiwandiiko, yes, so at some point it works for us. Kati ffe tuyinza kwepositioninga wa okumanya nti either UCC is helping the industry or it is failing the industry. Are we even in the right commission or ministry as Minister of ICT?
The UCC is looking at the platforms and the channels and the tubes and whatever through which our content gets to the market.
The market, yes.
And that is their mandate. So as far as that goes, let them continue doing it. We cannot take it away from them. So if they got into, say, the arena of taking, I know they are providing a film fund so that you people can create content. They are running the Uganda Film Festival and
for showcase.
Showcase. And through that, they are building your skills so that you can do much better and so on. I imagine that they are doing that because there was a gap. Because even for the Uganda National Cultural Center, one of their mandates, UNCC, is to develop artistic activities,
works, yes.
However, they have not been implementing that mandate fully. So UNCC left a gap. And UCC,
UCC saw an opportunity for them to position themselves well.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So it's a good thing that they decided that these people should not be total orphans. They can be acting mothers for the time being until some of these issues really, like film specifically. Personally, I'm concerned that the entire film industry within UCC is collapsed into one section. I think it's section 32, which talks about licensing of video libraries and whatever, you see. But film is much more than
than that. And that's where my concern is, as National Culture Forum and the other entities of film or stakeholders, because when we come to UNCC, like you just said, UNCC has been very dormant at that place, as that position as far as advocating for the industry is concerned. Because their mandate is very clear. There is development, accommodating, and then promoting. But we find it so hard to see UNCC coming in to execute their mandate. So as Culture Forum, you're very close to UNCC because you work with UNCC and you're even neighbors at some point. What are some of the strategies that you have in plan, specifically for the film sector, putting UNCC on abaganda bagita ninga okubateeka ku ninga nti UNCC evaayo ne taking a position yayo, because even as we speak right now we don't have a projector at UNCC. of the National Theatre of Uganda doesn't have a projector, and yet, so that means film cannot be showcased. Those are things that I would request your National Culture Forum to at least look out for, because you are the umbrella body advocating for the sector. You would look at the institution as UNCC nemubuuza ddala bino ebintu weebiri byaccommodating about poetry, byaccommodating about fashion, byaccommodating about film. What would you say about that, or what is your take and plan that you have towards that?
We have had discussions,
Engagements with them.
Yeah, with UNCC, highlighted some of the things that we think were not done correctly. For instance, looking at the law of UNCC and management of UNCC, the way that management, for instance, is structured and set up is not well aligned with the industry.
Yes.
Because I think UNCC is very strong on theatre arts. There is a whole theatre auditorium and
lights,
the production manager and the light people
yes,
and so on. It's also very strong on the visual arts and crafts. There's a normal gallery,
craft village,
and crafts village. There's no film. There's no staff who is specifically responsible for film.
Yes.
There's no staff who is specifically responsible for the literary arts. There is no staff.
Yeah, you actually
understand,
said yes.
So at that level, we have engaged and we have said, UNCC, you need to restructure so that your departments and the people that work at UNCC can reflect the diversity of the culture and creative industries. Because that's the initial step that the organization needs to take in order to be able to address the specific needs of each of the domains and subdomains. Two, we have also had engagements on, say, funding for UNCC. At the moment, we know for a fact that the money that UNCC gets from government is for wages.
Salary, covers salary.
Salaries, yes. There is no money for development. But you know the arts need development funds. We need grants. Actually, arts thrive on grants. So we need grants from UNCC so that if tomorrow you want to shoot a movie and you want to go to the mountains of the moon, you are not hampered by lack of a budget, but that you can apply for some money and be able to get there. So as you can see, most of the things that I've addressed so far concerning UNCC are things that cut across the different domains of culture and creative industries, including film.
Yeah.
We have also had discussions on the best use for the space at UNCC. As you know, one of the mandates is provide accommodation for
yes,
artistic societies, philanthropies, and so on. But when you look at the use of space at UNCC, we would expect that maybe we would have state-of-the-art studio for film. In one of the spaces.
Yes.
We would have state-of-the-art studios for music in one of the spaces. We would have working spaces, collaborative working spaces for artists, so that you don't have to hire an office somewhere. But when your project is due, when your project is due, you come and work from that collaborative space and deliver on your project as an artist. So there's a need to rethink the approach or the way that the organization has been operating, so that it can serve artists better.
Nice. Thank you so much, everyone that is tuned in to Film Agenda 256 here at Living Arts. We want to appreciate our partners, UNCC. Wadde tuli wantu ebuuza ebibuuzo UNCC ebintu ebimu naye ng'era gwe watuwa ne space. Bwega tuli bazibu, tuli baana ate abalumba maama ne taata, naye nga it is okay, but we still ask and demand for more as far as your mandate is concerned. Does UNCC have a strategy on marketing Ugandan content to the international stages and or attract potential partnerships to the Ugandan content development or content producers? That's a question coming in from Neon. Wherever you are, thank you so much. Does UNCC have a strategy on marketing Ugandan content to the international stages or attract potential partnerships to the Ugandan content producers or development? That's a question that you need to help answer. One of the things that just came into my mind is the issue of creatives not actually being, because I've had it in so many government offices, that we are disorganized, we are not professional. What is your take on that at some point?
Okay.
Because you've been to many offices.
Yes, and this is my take on that issue.
You're very excited on that issue.
Yes. There's a reason why I'm very excited. I have argued elsewhere that actually government is the one disorganizing us. How? One, as I stated earlier, the mandates for culture and creative industries are scattered all over government.
Yes.
There is not a single entity that is primarily responsible for culture and creative industries. So we have divided loyalties. Some of the artists are loyal to Ministry of Tourism. Some of them are loyal to Ministry of Justice.
ICT and
others are loyal to Ministry of ICT.
And gender.
Others are loyal to Ministry of Gender.
Gender, yes.
So we are divided. Government is the one dividing us by way of structure, how government is structured, that this very important industry, the way it should be managed, both at a political level and also at a technical level. We have wondered actually, and let me also wonder here, that if you invited the Minister of Gender to a meeting somewhere, because as you know, gender has a very broad mandate. Every Ugandan is a member of the Ministry of Gender.
Yes.
Either as an adult, as aged, old people,
yes,
old persons, or as a woman, as a youth, as a child, as
everyone,
a disabled person. So everywhere. Then there are these issues of labor, externalization, NSSF, and so on. So the creative industry is just a small component within that broad mandate. So if we invited the minister, most probably she'll be talking labor externalization or the other issues that are very important to the ministry. And so the root cause of the disorganization is partly government. But there's also the political angle to the disorganization, because what happens is you have so many power centers, so many power centers that control artists. And some artists are loyal to so and so, others are loyal to so and so. So we need to work towards one, streamlining the way government manages the arts.
The arts, yes.
In many countries, they have a ministry responsible for artists, a Ministry of Arts and Culture. Sometimes it's arts and sports or something like that. But also they have specialized organizations that handle issues of artists. So they have arts councils. And the people that sit in the arts councils are federations, domain level federations. So you have a federation for music, federation for performing arts, federation for film, federation for whatever. So those are the people that constitute the Arts Council. And so we also need to work on our laws. Our laws are very weak when it comes to issues of organizing artists. So today, if you form the Film Association and I'm a member, when we disagree,
I go form another one.
Then my group also will continue splitting. Yeah, but I think it's part of our growth curve as an industry. Now we are coming to the realization that...
But maybe also on the other point, they are embracing the Uganda constitution that says freedom to associate is very important. Because sometimes they are not limited to which association they should be.
Yeah, but when it comes to the those broad associations for each of the domains, those broad whatever entities that bring together the different associations, there is control. So there has to be a level of control. If I use the example of sports, you know, sports is one of the most regulated. Because I think they realized that, for instance, you cannot have two football associations, national football associations, two FUFAs. Imagine if you had that, what that would bring, the disorganization it would bring to
the sector,
the discipline of football, rugby, and so on. So for them, through the sports National Council, that Sports Act, they said we have to fix the way private people associate regarding a particular sports discipline.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we want to produce competitive athletes at all levels. And without doing that, we will not be able to compete internationally. And you can see the results because they are a bit organized. So we go to the Olympics and win medals. We go to World Championships and all these different spaces, competitions. So the same would apply to the arts. So the the Arts Council is the one that would bring sanity within the industry, ensure there is a degree or semblance of unity and a united front. I can say that the National Culture Forum actually at the moment is like the de facto Arts Council, but without legal support. So once we bring the legal support, then the way we organized, the organization, the way we organized, we can easily, because now once we have the powers to regulate, then we regulate. At the moment we don't. You saw at the beginning of this year, we banned some artists for violence during shows. Then, after like 3 weeks or something like that, those artists were seen performing
on NRM rallies
and other places.
Do you think that shows, I think that clearly shows there is no political will to support the creative space?
I think the political will is there, but there is a level of indiscipline also among some officials. With some officials, either party operatives or some people within government, that that don't think that, if we're imposing discipline, self-regulation as a sector, that needs to be respected. Yeah, but we are happy. These things are beginning to take shape. For me personally, I always give a benefit of doubt, because for everything there is a learning curve. There's some learning that people have to go through in order for them to appreciate that, this is the way that things should be done. So we need to grow stronger, of course, as associations, as the Culture Forum. We need to show more professionalism and so on, so that when we take decisions, for instance, on self-regulation, some party operative will not hire those artists that have been banned.
Yes. Have you taken initiatives to engage those in that line, those that are engaging to hire those artists?
We have expressed displeasure and told them that they need to really support us to professionalize. Because once those big people also begin to respect our decisions, that helps us to professionalize the sector in a way. Otherwise, if we make decisions and they don't respect them, then the professionalization will take us a very long time to achieve.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Charles. One of the things that is really coming up in the next few days is the AGM of Uganda Federation of Movie Industries, and I understand the chairman of National Culture Forum is also the chairman board Uganda Federation of Movie Industries. Do you have a hand in the upcoming AGM for the UFMI
I don't have a hand.
as National Culture Forum?
Yeah, we don't have a hand as National Culture Forum. However, we'll be invited to attend as observers to see how the process proceeds. I personally would encourage filmmakers to support UFMI by attending the AGM.
The AGM, yeah.
All of you filmmakers, you need to pay your membership so that you can vote on issues that are brought to a vote. But also if elections are going to happen for the board of UFMI, so that you can stand and cause the transformation that you desire to see within UFMI, but also so you can vote for the people that you want to be your leaders
Yes.
within UFMI. I think filmmakers need to take this responsibility.
Okay. Film Agenda 256, we are always here. Buli lwakusatu sawa bbiri. It's an online talk show. Please, we encourage every filmmaker, stakeholder, and those that have interest in joining the film business to pick interest in joining this talk so that we can share much more insightful information and ideas to help the sector grow. We're remaining with 15-20 minutes, but in those 15-20 minutes, I want to ask Charles, recently you've been in Gulu, meeting General Salim Saleh, and you were there for almost 2 weeks. Did you bring out any bread for the industry? That is one. Number two, and in the same season, there was also something running around the sector. Honorable Rachel Magola was revisiting or trying to review or rebuild the culture policy. And as National Culture Forum, one of the bodies that we trust to have full representation in this whole process did not take place. What could be the issue? One, what did you bring for us from Gulu? Two, and why you didn't participate in the review?
Okay. We went to Gulu to discuss a number of issues.
Concerning the creative space?
Yes. General Saleh is one of the champions of the culture and creative industries. So in Gulu, we discussed issues around products and markets. And that is the new direction that OWC and other people are taking. The new approach that is going to be used in addressing issues of the industry. Looking at products. Do you have a product to sell to the market? And then what interventions do we need to improve markets? Some people would know that, for instance, for music, there was an attempt to set up something called Ugatunes, a digital platform through which Ugandan music could be distributed, distributed and monetized. So one of the discussions we had in Guru was digital platforms, which ones would work for Uganda and which ones have failed to work.
Did you discuss only for film or for music, or also film was involved?
For that we discussed for music, but also set ground for developing platforms that cut across domains. Platforms that are owned by Ugandans. They have a very good business model that would cut across industries within the culture and creative space, so that Ugandans can use their platforms to to share and monetize their content. We discussed funding for the sector. And we told General Saleh that, we are not present in the budget framework paper for 2025 to 2026. Even though in the National Development Plan 4, we have a page. And the president of Uganda said that, the creative industry will be one of the 10 sectors that will be prioritized to propel the country in the next 5 years. Now, when you miss out in the budget framework paper for year 1 of NDP 4, what will happen in year 2?
Yes.
And year 3 and year 4? So he said, our chief benefactor, please use your influence also to lobby for us so that the sector can have something, a share of the national cake. And this is not money. We said this money shouldn't come to individuals. Actually, General Saleh said, are you people with your associations, you have been setting up these associations or kwetega, so that you can get some little money which you share.
Maybe at some point is right.
Yes. So that's the reason for the shift, that, associations shouldn't be the ones receiving money, because we have been very poor at managing finances. Let me tell you, even associations that received money for circles, most of those circles are dead. Emyoga circles, some people got money from microfinance support center for circles, and those circles are dead because they are not functional. People borrowed once, they didn't pay back.
They did not pay back.
And so it shows that maybe as creatives, we lack the skills to manage circles.
Maybe actually, when you say skills, the skills may not be available because we lack that professional human resource. Because as a sector, I have seen we lack a lot of business managers. Because give me a name of an artist that is way big in Uganda as far as the industry is concerned, and they have the business ideology of what they do. Because even the big brands, the big names, mention them, they do not have a plan on how this business they're in. One, they don't recognize themselves as a product. Two, they don't also look at themselves as an asset or a brand for a country. Three, they are not actually after sustainability. We've seen, I'll give an example of Diamond Platinum, who's a musician, just came in a few years back, but he beats most of our big names that have been here for years. So probably the skill is there, but not the right skill.
Actually, in Guru, we talked about the things that can stimulate a particular the triggers for growth.
Yes.
In a particular industry. And actually, the question you asked earlier, part of the reason for the apparent disorganization within the industry is because of the way we are organized in producing our products. For instance, for music, if you had music labels, the Swans type of businesses, there would be discipline. Because Swanks cares about the brand. They don't want you to be doing things that would hurt their reputation as a business, or that would lead them to lose money. And yet they have invested so heavily in developing you as a brand. So we need more Swanks. If we can have 5, the industry would change.
Yes.
But also, the other issue about the way we organized, and the Swang example, is government would listen more to Swangs, because they would say, okay, what is their contribution to tax? And they would see. It's very easy to track. But when they say, Musinguzi, what is this contribution to our economy? They don't see Musinguzi. They don't see Musinguzi anywhere. So for music, the approach I think needs to be putting in place systems and incentives that would support the emergence of more record labels or businesses that work in that line of business. And that approach is far removed from, because the agitation has been that let us build more regional studios. The issue is not lack of regional studios, but organization and business acumen, what you have just mentioned.
Yes.
For us, we are just producers of content, but there should be a businessman who organizes us and ensures that...
Who understands the business.
Yes.
When it comes to film, you realize that we need distributors.
Yes.
And if the valve, the production value chain pours to a certain basket, and that basket is full of films, but the valve of distribution and market is not open.
Yes.
So everyone in that chain is going to certificate.
You got it, yes, yeah. So for film market, we talked about distributors, but you know, these people, their biggest challenge is distribution. And if we can find strategies of how we stimulate growth in the business of distribution, then that will change the entire value chain. Jenna is a businessman.
Yes, he may be a businessman, but also understanding the business.
No. He might not understand the film business, but at least when you talk about distribution, he will know that when I've produced this, definitely I need an outlet.
Yes.
So that I can make money, I can make a return on my investment. So those are the issues. Now, about the parliamentary forum and the effort that has been ongoing to revise, I would say to generate proposals on the culture policy.
Yes.
It has been a good initiative. Unfortunately, the core team of the National Culture Forum Secretariat could not attend because all of us were in Gulu. Indeed, Mr. Wasula reached out to me and said, Charles, I don't see you, and yet this is the last day and it's very important.
Yes.
I sent him a message and said, I can't be in the meeting because we are in Gulu. I had told him earlier that we had traveled to Gulu for that serious engagement with General Saleh. We appreciate the effort that every person who attended those meetings put in to generate alternative ideas, thoughts on what needs to be in the culture policy. I hope that the minister considers some of these ideas to incorporate in the draft that I already had.
At some point, I thought maybe we are clashing, but thank you for making that clear. But one of the things that I realized that there was money, as we speak, 18 billion shillings was approved to get into, is it the creative space, creative cultural industries? Are you in that line of also tapping into that 18 billion shillings? Or is it approved? Because I heard it that 18 billion shillings was approved by the Ministry of Finance to get into the creative space or creative and culture industries. I don't know who is going to manage that fund and what is it going to handle.
Okay, I also heard
You've not
that actually the Ministry of Gender also had a meeting to have that 18 billion included in the budget. So remember I said we were not in the budget framework paper.
Yes.
And actually we wrote a protest to UNCC to say, UNCC, you're our representative in government.
In government, yes.
How can you allow such an injustice to be done or committed against artists? So then the ED of UNCC wrote back to say, oh, we are going to do something about it. So later on when I heard that the ministry had actually got information from finance that they could budget for 18 billion, that was a good thing. Although the amount, because I think there's a presidential directive that says give this sector 30 billion. So we are demanding for our 12 billion from Ministry of Finance so that they can make 30 billion for the next budget. I'm not yet certain on how that money is going to be spent by the ministry, the breakdown, because we have not heard from the ministry on how on the breakdown of that budget. But it would be important that it is on things that transform the industry.
The sector, yes.
Yes, and of course, they might want to give some money for circles and whatever, but we need careful study on what works.
What would be your best advice on how to spend that 18 billion shillings? As far as the CCI is concerned, that is creative, culture and creative industries. I
personally would spend it on activities that stimulate market growth, because market is one of the key pillars for the culture and creative industries. So I would spend it on, say, festivals, both local and abroad, because I know filmmakers, for instance, have been going to the Kigali film market, and you struggle to get into that market. But there are also other markets, music and books and so on, within the region, but also internationally, have a presence so that we can begin to have negotiations with the people in those countries on how we can penetrate those markets and open them for Ugandan creative works. So I would spend part of that money on that. I would spend part of it on skilling, teaching digital literacy skills, financial literacy, legal contracts and whatever, the things, the normal things that people experience and that hurt their chances for making money. So I would spend part of it on that. And maybe I would spend part of it to put in a government bank and say
for loans.
Yes, for loans that are affordable, but also that use copyright as collateral, so that the artists are not hampered from borrowing. So I would put part of this money, say, in housing finance or post bank, those banks which are owned by government, and then work towards getting artists that need capital to get it from those spaces.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, that would be a nice idea. One of the events that is happening in May, that is character film, makeup, costume, and hair exhibition, says we have Film Club Circle that is active and advising creatives to register in the circle. So the Film Club has a film circle, so you are encouraged to register as a filmmaker if you want to be in this circle. It is very active. Film Club sits at the National Theatre every Tuesday from 5:30 to 9 p.m. And this month we are celebrating women in the creative space, specifically filmmakers that are female or women doing great work in production. So the first Tuesday of this month, we had Nana Kaga, who was amazingly opening up to young creatives and also with insightful and powerful messages to the females in the creative space, specifically film. Yesterday, Tuesday, we had Doreen Mirembe, the producer of Damalai, powerful message and experiences that she shared. And then this coming Tuesday, we'll be hosting Sister DPO, Dominique DPO from Makerere University, a professor, who will be also sharing with us a great journey of her life as a creative in the film space. So don't miss. Join the film circle so that we may be able to work together and develop ourselves. Mr. Charles, as we are closing in the next few minutes, I would love also you to give more light on how best the film sector should begin to engage with the government on issues, because one of the businesses that needs government at some point, when you just said it, boyogera ku tax rebates, incentives, international collaborations that attract. Then also taxation, because the last experience we had with Queen of Kato was totally a mess. Disney left this place complaining about the double taxation. What are some of those advices that you should give? Actually, you sit with the government. General Salim Saleh is a big dog in the government, and I'm sure he's one of the guys that can help in negotiating at some point. What are those some advices that you would give out to the public, stakeholders, and also the government?
Okay, I know as a culture forum, we have been involved in negotiating the freedom of filmmakers arrested by the military.
The military.
for for using their attires, their whatever as props and costumes. So one of the areas where I think we should put emphasis is sensitization of government on costumes, and but also having a framework policy or something like that, so that when a filmmaker has a toy gun, they don't get arrested, or they have shoes that look like military shoes, or attires, for people to appreciate the fact that the costumes and the props are part of the story. The story can never be complete without
costume.
Yeah, without those. So just getting that in the heads of...
how do we do that? Because we've come to realize that because of the political environment in Uganda, it gives very hard understanding to these creatives and also the policing parties to understand that this is a creative industry that needs to use certain things. And some years back, when General Kare Kaihura was in police as the IGP, he had given room. He had dedicated a Fande Mutete, that whoever wanted to use the police uniform should go through him. And today it's never there.
That's why the approach should be different. It should not be dependent on the goodwill
of whoever is in office.
Yeah, a good commander. Yeah, it should be
a structure
within the law. Should be a structure, and that's why for film, really, the priority should be on getting a film law, so that all these issues can be addressed.
Nice.
Issues of accessing locations, issues of props, costumes, issues of rebates, waivers, and so on. Everything that somebody that is coming to shoot a movie needs, but also where you get permissions, permits, because at the moment everything is a bit in disarray. You don't know where to start, but also you waste a lot of time chasing permissions.
So recently, a filmmaker struggled to get just permission from KCC to use the KCC dustbin truck. It took him 2 months. He shot the film before he got a reply from KCCA, and which film actually crossed over up to the Oscars to represent Uganda.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Charles. In your last remarks, what is your message to the viewers of Film Agenda 256 as one of the leaders at National Culture Forum?
Yeah, my final remark, let me borrow what we got from Bulu. Products and markets. We need to create those products as creatives. And so every one of you that is spending time and money and resources, please continue producing. And then we also need to work on the market issues. As a culture forum, we want to understand what the issues are, so that within our means we can take some actions to ensure that the environment in which you work improves, because we want this sector to make more money, to make you richer, but also to make the country better.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Charles. And also one message I would love to ask to send out to everyone, especially General Salim Saleh. I don't know if you've picked interest in understanding some of the activities that are happening in the film space. We have events like character, film, makeup, costume, and hair. We also have the film and culture market that is actually working on bettering the market for the filmmakers in Uganda. We are working on attracting so many distributors. We need government to help us understand that these activities of these events aim at bettering the life of the people in these spaces and also putting out a product. Because last year, our third edition experienced a very, very big hiccup when Parliament closed off all the roads to the event at National Theatre, and people never accessed the event. We used a lot of money to do this event, but at the same time, we did not get the people to attend this event. So we need, I don't know how we should work, because it's a very sensitive thing that we need to work on between the political environment, or stewards and the creatives, to understand that this is a business that needs all hands together. It is Film Agenda 256, and I've been your host, Musingus Godfrey. Neon says it's even hard to import in props like airsoft guns, rubber or foam STUNT guns in the country. That framework is important. He also continues to say we to expose producers to market expansion, such as aligned NGOs to stories created. So Neon says that it's very hard to bring in props. I have also witnessed it at the airport. If you have toy guns, you have toy helicopters that look like or have colors of the army, you may not actually bring it into the country. And surprisingly, we have shoes that come in that look like army shoes, and we wonder, ate zonga bazikiriza okuyingira. Thank you so much. It's Film Agenda 256. We love you so much. Next Wednesday, we'll be here, 8 p.m. Today, we were supposed to have Lady Aisha Namatovo, the President General Parwood, but she didn't make it to the show. Rain came in a very funny way where she's coming from, and she had an issue with a cold, so we couldn't have her here. That's why we had Mr. Charles and me in the studios. But we love you so much. Whoever keeps locked on the Film Agenda 256, we love you so much. Want to call out sponsors, partners, come. Let's talk about film business. Thank you. See you again on Wednesday.
Amanya nedobozi nze ntongo Flon.
Christine Sendi.
Mwanje Steven Kabarana.
Serunya Anes Kadu.
Eno program bagiyita Film Agenda 256.
Enganze nnyo.
Sawa 2 buli lwakusatu.
Wano teri kuvaawo, beera wano.
Nange kwendi.